Welcome back to the watch. And all right, we need to discuss Avatar because it's coming out, but there's a question that some of us have had in regards to Avatar. And that is, does anyone even give a crap? Is this because you've seen the news that Avatar needs to make, what, $1 billion?
I think it's two.
What, 2 billion? What?
2 billion.
I haven't heard that. I heard $1 billion.
Is it 2 billion, Nathan, or one?
I don't know. Either way, $1 billion's a lot of money.
I think it's two. I think it's two.
Well, we'll go with one, and if we're wrong, chat will correct us. Because even if it's just 1 billion, only the biggest films make $1 billion, crack $1 billion.
I do believe that the original Avatar did.
Yeah, that was one of the biggest. Yeah, the original Avatar did crack $1 billion, and is that what they're kind of, I guess, banking on? That the first one was really popular, and therefore
It's just James Cameron being like, it's my movie, it'll sell.
No, I don't know. I think he's come out and he's even said that does anybody even care at this point? So I think even he knows that it's been too long. People just don't care as much now. It might do well, relatively speaking, but it's not going to make money.
I thought you were going to say something.
Yeah,
Because this is what I noticed as well. Enthusiasm for the Avatar brand seems to have gone down the longer the film went away. When it came out, I remember massive buzz around it. Biggest thing ever. It was amazing. It was so beautiful. Everyone watched it and a lot of positivity around the film. But the more time has passed, I've come across more people being critical of the film, which surprised me. Look, I know that there's objective things that you can say that it's flawed or everything like that, but I still credit it for being a very enjoyable film on my first watch. And I think I only watched it another once or twice since, but nothing recently. I need to rewatch it recently.
that's the funny thing for me. Like, I've watched it a few times, and it's a good movie, I think. It's a good action flick, but never have I bought it on Blu-ray, gone, we're going to watch Avatar! Every time someone says, Avatar's on, I go, oh, okay, cool. It's like one of those movies I watch once, and that's it. And the same with Avatar too, I feel like, although it looks very pretty, I don't think I'll ever rewatch it for the sake of the story or what it made me feel.
It is interesting. I'm trying to figure out what is making me want to go watch the film. And it's not really because I have to know what happened to the characters or story or I need to see the world. I'm just kind of thinking, I enjoyed the first one when I first watched it.
Yeah.
This probably going to have good production values. Good chance I might enjoy it the second time. And so that's a positive outlook to the film, which seems to be few people have.
I'm curious, how did you watch it originally?
Not 3D.
You watch it just in the normal cinema?
Yeah, normal cinemas.
I watched it 3D. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, I watched it in IMAX, and as I think back, it's not a bad movie or anything. I just think back and I think how much of my enjoyment was because it was brand new and it was in IMAX, and how much of it is because it's a standalone good movie.
Some people claim it as a bad movie, like poorly written, saying it's the same story we've seen 1,000 times. Like just imagine Pocahontas, but in space.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's fine. Like it's not like
I would
terrible.
need to rewatch it to actually, because like I said, I watched it uncritically just for an enjoyable film, and I enjoyed it. And I wonder if I went into it critically, if I'd see all the problems people are saying that's in it, but perhaps not. I mean,
the other thing I was shocked at was when James Cameron was like, I'm going to write books about this. It's going to be expanded universe. Like, he had this big plan, like Star Wars scale for Avatar. But after seeing the movie, I was like, really? It just...
Yeah, well...
He hyped it up so much, and then when watching it, I was just like, oh, it just feels like another flick.
I was wondering how they would expand it into a greater universe, because I felt like we got to see all the world, but now the part of the world that they're saying we haven't seen is the sea of the world. It's like, I was half wondering, because they have this whole thing that the entire planet ecosphere is actually a brain, essentially. That's what my takeaway, like all the roots connecting, basically fired, and the planet is sentient. And I was wondering, if they want to go into space, are they going to make like the planet be able to fly through space, like it's the brain thing can make some biological wormhole thing, or they make biological ships that they grow, and then they could have a sci-fi big epic space thing.
I don't think they're going to go that route. I don't think
would have been cool.
Yeah, maybe it might have been cool, but I definitely don't think they're going that route.
No, I don't. Like it seems like it's all just on the world again.
Yeah.
And the world. Yeah, it had weird animals and plants. The world wasn't anything special to me. It's like I like Earth.
I think
better.
it's just more strange how they interact with the world.
With their
that's a bit
makes me uncomfortable.
And that's how you like ride animals.
Of course,
and stuff.
I need to ride you, but first I'm going to have to sexually assault you to do it. It's perfectly normal.
It's one of those
messed up.
It's one of those things when you first view it, you go, oh yeah, okay. And then as soon as you give it just 1 second, one little second of thought, you go, wait, hang on a minute, what?
True. So it's funny because I don't particularly love the world. Like there are some weird things about it. It's got animals, but I mean, you know, there's like a panther, like animal, but we have like panther. So I don't. The world is a world, and not particularly the most interesting alien ecosphere either. Like if you want really interesting ones, I mean, read Orson Scott Card, Speaking for the Dead. That has a really interesting alien ecosphere. And so, yeah, but it was enjoyable. The first one was enjoyable, and I think maybe I could enjoy the second one. But going up on the discussion of the critical nature of the first one, right? It wasn't so bad that I was pulled out of the film. Like there are some films that are so bad, even when I'm watching it uncritically, the crapness just is unavoidable.
Seeps through.
And like, you know, Rings of Power, recent Marvel films.
Yeah, fair enough. I was just thinking though, it's like, I think it did so well for its time because it was something a bit different. I'm pretty sure it was like mostly CGI, and that was very new at the time.
It was good CGI.
Yeah, it was good CGI,
Good
as well.
CGI.
Yeah. I'm just trying to think, like, why has it taken 13 years? Like, what could
Yeah.
possibly take that long?
If they got this out 2-3 years after the first
Yeah, it
one,
would've
you'd
been
think it would be
yeah,
much
yeah,
bigger.
But
I-
13 years is like, I think I would have been in like high school or something like that. We're talking, it's a long
Was
time.
it 13 years ago?
Yeah, over a decade.
I feel so old. Holy crap.
Well, I mean, you are.
Aging gracefully. I'm getting grey hairs, grey hair. I'm on the size of my. That's like if you ever want grey hair, you want it there, and I'm
Yeah.
getting it right on there. Can people see?
Get the cluesy look.
Don't worry, we can do a zoom in. to
Yeah,
check
do a
if you
zoom in.
want.
Check out like this grey hair. I want to get Reed Richards kind of stuff going.
But I think with terms of the length, I think there were two issues. One was James Cameron was just so caught up on the world and the story. I think he took too long dealing with everything else and not focusing on the movie. I know there's portions where it's like, I'm writing like 3-4 other scripts.
But
James-
he's done other movies as well.
You
hasn't he?
should have done Alita Battle Angel sequel.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fair.
And I also think it's been the tech, because this way of water thing, water is a very hard thing to do digitally.
Yeah.
And the shots that and this is the thing that annoys me, right? I'm going to watch this movie and go, holy crap, that's CGI? That's not real? Everything looks real. It's amazing. But it took 13 years just to get that response from me. And then once I've seen it, it's gone.
Yeah, well, it's interesting because some films seem to sail on the impressiveness of its effects for a long while. And might be controversial, but guess what? Star Wars: A New Hope is one of those ones. Like
Oh yeah, but that
the
it's
visuals
more,
were
they
huge, mind-blowing. For
they
the
did a
day.
lot of practical effects.
Yeah,
which
but-
is why it's aged so gracefully.
Yeah, but so it looked incredibly good for its thing. But if you actually break down the plot, and I enjoy A New Hope, I think it's really good, but its plot is actually quite standard and average, fair game stuff, where the plot really picks up in Star Wars when Empire Strikes Back. And,
Yeah,
okay,
I think that's one of
That-
my top 3.
that's where it takes off. But you could break down the plot essentially: evil empire in power, save a princess, defeat the bad guy.
Yeah.
That's it. That's as standard as you can almost get for a plot. The things that it really was able to nail great, right, was a great emotional payoff and conclusion. They build up the tension with that trench run and everything. And so it's not actually the plot that's saving it, it's that the execution of certain elements were done really well in A New Hope. And the setup and payoff of the redemption of Han Solo saving and everything like that. That ended the film on a really high note, which I think also goes in its favor, even if the plot is standard. But then, because the effect, everyone was talking about the effects, it became a timeless classic. I find it interesting that Avatar, groundbreaking effects, but now I don't know, it hasn't really. We're just like everyone can do it now or something.
Well, I think it's also brand recognition because, as you're an Avatar fan, a lot of people get confused every time you bring up Avatar. Is it Avatar the anime?
blue all the
Yeah.
Yeah, the blue.
At first, I thought you were talking about the blue Avatar. So I was
Exactly.
like, I don't remember Nathan being a huge blue.
and I'm
Yeah.
not. Weird.
Excuse me, I know I said it as well, but is offensive. Okay, I like associating.
Should we censor that? Should we actually censor that?
So what's interesting, right? I have very low interest in the sequel, but actual interest. Like I am more interested in watching this Avatar sequel than any of the Marvel, DC, Star Wars properties that have come out recently. And what I find interesting about this, it's actually it's one of the more like the highest interest films I've had recently because every one of them has been such crap. I am more excited about this than Marvel, DC, even when my excitement is very just minimal. At least I am interested in seeing it.
That's the sad thing though too. You're not excited because it's good. You're excited because everything else is just crap.
If it's
There's
average,
nothing else interesting you.
if it's mildly above average, I
Yeah.
would be thrilled because everything's so crap.
Which is depressing and sad.
What about you, Nathan? Are you interested in seeing it? Is it something you're hyped for?
I want to look at the effects, but like whenever we do like story or like there's a whole like, oh, these people are the water people, I don't care.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
I just want to see the effects. I kind of want to see it IMAX 3D just to see the like experience at one time. It's like going to the theater. You go there for the experience and you enjoy it, and then that's it.
Oh, you got to remember that when the original Avatar came out, that was really big in terms of 3D. Like they were making like 3D television. And
I
stuff.
think it was the only good 3D movie that was coming out at the time.
And now we've moved to a point where companies, people, nobody cares about 3D. It gives you a headache. It's like I don't want to watch this in 3D.
Look, I was never on the 3D bandwagon. I
was for a
can
little bit.
happily say I have never gone to the cinemas and watched any 3D film ever.
If it was 3D, I always watched it 3D.
It was always a gimmick, and I always, yeah.
It was really cool in Harry Potter with the wands. I really enjoyed it.
Actually, oh no, I think I saw Sherlock in 3D. No, I didn't. I get confused because there are specific scenes, I think it's in the second Sherlock film, where it was just made for 3D. It's when they're running through the forest and the trees are getting hit and the splinters are going.
Yeah,
when I watched that, I was like, oh, this whole sequence was just made for 3D. That made me feel like I was watching a 3D film, even though I wasn't having the glasses on.
That's a good sequence, though. Just like without the 3D aspect.
Probably,
it's still
maybe,
good.
but it actually pulled me up because that seems so gratuitously, this is for 3D.
I don't know if I got that from that. It's
That's
just
what I got.
It's a
I
cool
was just
thing
like-
with, like things blowing up.
So I had a thought on Avatar again. Now I need to
Just
remember what it
imagine Shad sitting in the cinema just watching a movie. A ship blows up. This is for 3D. This
Clearly,
helps
it's
me
not
out of it.
like you're all.
It's all a conspiracy.
Anything cool happens.
I have-
This
Position
is
selling
clearly
3D
for
TV.
The documents. Interesting thing, right? If Avatar is genuinely like a good film, we're talking like an 8 out of 10.
Mm.
I could definitely foresee it making $1 billion. You know why? Top Gun Maverick. How much? Like, who was hanging out for a Top Gun sequel? Like, seriously, who gave a crap
I mean,
about Top Gun?
I'm sure there would be like Reddits or like someone.
Just
on
like
the
with
internet.
Avatar.
I don't know. It depends. We have to know.
You know
Does
why-
Does it need $1 billion or $2 billion to make like cash back? 'Cause
Fine,
I
I'll
think-
check. I'll check.
I think it can conceivably make $1 billion. Because
If
like
it's
there's a lot
good.
of movies that do that. these days.
If it's bad, like if it is as bad as DC, mainly Marvel, DC's anyway, Star Wars, all the sludge that Amazon will get, Rings of Power. If it's as like as bad as those, it will bomb hardcore. Because the only thing that got me out to see Top Gun Maverick was word of mouth. People said this film's actually good. I was in the mood to see a film and was like, hey, we could review it for the channel. If I didn't see a positive review, would not have seen it. Top Gun Maverick basically got to its blockbuster, $1 billion, whatever,
Yeah.
word of mouth. And then we watched it and made a glowing review. One of the best films I've seen.
It needs $2 billion.
$2 billion.
$2 billion it is.
That's so much money, though. That's so much.
Well, 13
What
years
film
of
has made $2
development.
billion? Hang on, is it 1 million just to break even and then
No,
No, it needs to make $2 billion to break
break
even.
Holy crap.
And it made
It needs to be one of the top 5 grossing films of all time.
The first one made about 2.8.
Yeah.
Still, that's so
So,
much money.
The thing is, like, if they're banking on everyone who watched Avatar 1 will watch Avatar 2, they're shooting themselves in the foot because the thing about Avatar 1, it got multiple viewings. People went back and watched it again because of the experience. It was so amazing. And you need lots of people watching it at least twice, even 3 times to get 2 billion.
And I think people now are less inclined to go to the cinema, to
Yep.
go out. We've got more couch potatoes, streaming services.
Oh, I know about that. Isn't that Bob Chapek's fault? That
Yeah,
people aren't
yeah,
going to the
no,
cinema?
it's his fault.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
from doing Disney Plus
Yeah, yeah.
day one releases. But it's just a different climate now. It's not. Was it 2011 it came out? Around about that time. Think about back then. very different consumer audience compared to now.
Mhm.
A different climate as well.
Wow. 2 billion. At the moment, I don't think I'd be happy to be wrong. I'd be happy to be right, especially if it's good. If it's good, I want it to be give it all the success in the world. I'll be happy about that. But 2 billion, nah. At the moment, I don't think it'll make that, and it needs to be good. Like,
Really good. I even heard some.
I mean,
people were they showed the original movie in cinemas for a little bit before it came out, and people got confused. They thought it was the new one, and so I think there's also some confusion in marketing, not even knowing what Avatar's coming out to be seen. So I wouldn't be surprised if those who went to see Avatar 2 saw Avatar 1. When Avatar 2 comes out, I'm gonna go, "No, it's just Avatar 1 again, isn't it?" I'm a little concerned with marketing.
I just don't think there's enough hype. Like, I just don't care. It's been way too long to the point where, there's so much media at this point that at the time it was sort of unique. At the time it was sort of something new and interesting, and it was genuinely. But at this point, it's like we've moved so far past it. It's like, I just don't care.
Yeah, and well, the thing is, when I said it needs to be good, let me clarify that actually, because it actually doesn't need to be good. It needs to be enjoyable and a spectacle at the very least. And then if it's good on top of that, because people have been a bit more red-pilled on Endgame now, that it's not a good film, but boy, was it an enjoyable one to watch the first time. I like the emotional payoff and the fun that I had in watching Endgame. Sailed that film to, well, it was the sequel to Infinity War, so of course, how could it fail? And that had all the hype it was building off of, where it seems like any hype for Avatar is just dead at the moment. And so it has to go off word of mouth. It actually, I think it probably does need to be good on top of being a spectacle.
I mean, we could give it a weekly release. How would that go?
I don't know if it was a series. It might be different. You guys are completely different. Doesn't apply. Doesn't apply there.
I just like adding it in. Just, I think it'll be more successful if it was a weekly release. We'll just chop it up.
Well, sometimes, they do a re-release, which increases the box office, which actually
by like a couple million. Nothing.
But still, I mean,
Not a couple billion.
They did it with Endgame. They did it with one of the other films. Because Endgame, it was still in the release window of Endgame, but then they re-released it with just like crappy scene, which was with
They did with Spider-Man as well.
Smart Hulk.
They
did,
did like a re-showing with all the cutout bits without any CG, and they made like another couple of million from that alone.
And was it only like a couple of minutes of scenes, like something really short?
Or it was like 20 minutes
This
or
is the
something.
thing,
But
though.
like they were all scenes that didn't
Yeah.
do anything to the movie.
This is the thing, though. My brother wanted to really see the re-release of Endgame, and so I went along with him. And they got the money out of me.
There.
Well, not just two. I was like
Oh.
5 or 6, because then my mum came, and then my
Yep.
sister-in-law, and then I think my wife.
If they
was
can
there.
make it a social experience, I think they could probably make it back. I just don't know if the climate fits that anymore. Because the last time I went to movies with my parents was like 5 years ago.
You're right. The climate is completely different. And so they got that working against them and all the other things we talked about. Yet, even having said all that, out of all the films recently, it's the one that I have been most interested in actually watching.
Yeah.
Like, this is one of those films I actually would have gone to watch if I wasn't reviewing. Like all these other films, Black Adam wouldn't have given us stuff. What was the other film recently? I don't know.
That's the thing that's so forgettable as well.
Multiverse of Madness and Thor.
And Wakanda as well.
And Wakanda. Wouldn't have watched them at all. Like, if this was just, if I wasn't doing it for a job. This is the only film that I actually would have gone out of my way, out of my pure interest to see, because I want to see it.
I think it's important to add that also in the time since the original Avatar was released, streaming services have risen to the top. On top of that, we also have inflation pretty much all around the world. So tickets are even more expensive. I mean, when I was in high school, I had a cinema near my, like a shopping center near me, and it cost $12 for a ticket. Now, how much does it cost?
It's like $20.
Yeah. Like, I don't know if I want to shell out $20 to
Interesting.
watch a mid movie.
But the other thing is, the 2 billion, if we account for inflation, might only be 1.5 in when Avatar 1 came around. And so, or maybe, is that inflation hasn't doubled, hasn't it?
7.3% currently in our country.
My mortgage payments have gone up regularly recently because of inflation. Anyway, so there's that. The fact that I'm more interested than other films, even though my interest isn't going through the roof. We'll have to wait and see. Are you guys interested in Avatar: The Way of Water? And do you think it'll be a success based on what it needs to achieve? $2
Do you think it will make $2 billion?
billion.
billion
Billion dollars. Looking forward to reading your comments down below. And as always, stay on watch.